A couple came to me asking for help finding their missing son. But all signs pointed to the boy being dead, yet somehow, his heart was still beating. Sir, ma'am, we have to trust science. Haven't we been scammed enough? If you keep this up, you'll spend all your retirement money. Alex, don't try to stop me. I have to find Leo. Science, superstition, I don't care, I'll try anything. The shouting in the courtyard woke me up early. I groggily pushed open my bedroom door and saw a weathered middle-aged couple and a rather handsome young man. Who are you looking for? I rubbed my eyes, confused by the three people in my yard. I'm looking for the psychic. I scratched my head. Me? What can I do for you? The courtyard fell silent. The middle-aged couple stared at me, a flicker of doubt and regret in their eyes. The young man's gaze was more blunt. He looked like he was about to say I wasn't even old enough to shave, let alone be a con artist. I rolled my eyes. No need to doubt. Haven't you heard, heroes often emerge young? Go wait in the living room. I'll be there in a bit. After washing up, I changed into a set of blue ceremonial robes and went to the living room. Clothes make the man, as they say. Seeing me with my hair in a bun and wearing the robes, the middle-aged couple looked slightly more reassured. Psychic, this is my husband, Mr. Green. I was referred by Maria from the village. She said you're amazing, that you cured the Lee village chief's granddaughter when she was possessed. I nodded and poured them each a cup of tea. The couple seemed really off, especially the woman. She looked to be under 40, but her face was etched with hardship. Her skin was a dark, ruddy color from years in the sun and wind. Her eyes were swollen to mere slits from constant crying. As soon as they finished their tea, they leaned back on the sofa and fell asleep, snoring loudly. The young man watched in astonishment, then immediately turned to stare at me warily. You drugged them? Sleeping pills? I sighed. This young man didn't seem too bright. It's calming tea. Your aunt and uncle are overwrought with grief, their spirits are unsettled. If they keep going like this, their health will collapse, and it'll seriously shorten their lives. You can tell me what happened next. Let them get some proper sleep. The young man's name was Alex. He just graduated from college last month with a law degree. He had a younger cousin, Leo, who was also the middle-aged couple's only son. Leo was a sophomore in high school, always at the top of his class. Since his family lived in a rural area, quite far from school, Leo boarded at the school and would take the last bus back to the village every Friday after class. That particular Friday, they waited until after 10 at night, but their son still hadn't come home. They started to worry. When they rushed to the school, they were told Leo had left long ago. They went to the police station to report him missing, but the police said they couldn't file a report until he'd been gone for 24 hours and told them to check internet cafes and pool halls. After all, it was perfectly normal for students that age to go play games with classmates after school. The police had once launched a big search for a boy, only to find him pulling an all-nighter playing games at a friend's house. The next day, there was still no sign of Leo. The whole village was worried. The village was a close-knit community where most people were related in some way. Besides, Leo was a polite, sensible boy and a good student. The village was hoping he'd get into a good university and bring honor to them all. Alex also took leave from his internship and rushed home to help find his cousin. The search went on for a month. School security cameras showed Leo leaving the school grounds with his backpack. Police surveillance footage tracked him to a small alley, where he vanished. That area was an old residential complex slated for demolition, with no security cameras. The case hit a dead end. The old complex was a maze of interconnected alleys, home to many out-of-town renters. With so many people and vehicles coming and going every day, finding someone who disappeared there was incredibly difficult. Mr. and Mrs. Green put up missing person flyers everywhere, appealed to media reporters, and tried every possible means. But any news of Leo was like a stone dropped into the ocean, without even a ripple. In their desperation, Mr. and Mrs. Green started seeking help from folk psychics, got scammed out of a lot of money, and still couldn't find Leo. I glanced sympathetically at the sleeping Mr. and Mrs. Green. A 17-year-old boy missing for a month. He was likely dead. I'll need an item of Leo's personal clothing, his birthdate, and ideally, some of his hair or fingernails. Alex picked up a cloth bag from beside Mrs. Green's feet and, like a magician, pulled out various items. He looked up with a bitter smile. We've seen a lot of so-called masters recently. We have all these things ready. Well, Stella. How dare you take clients behind my back? Just as I gathered the items and was about to start, my friend Fiona burst in, making a racket. You traitor! I just stepped out to grab some breakfast, and you betray me. I rolled my eyes and gestured towards Alex. This is my friend and assistant, Fiona. She's not always the sharpest tool in the shed, so don't mind her. Fiona was a well-known rich kid around here. Ever since she found out I could bust ghosts, she'd latched onto me. Thanks to her cash ability, I reluctantly took her on as an assistant. Stop fooling around, we're working on something serious. Finding a missing boy. Oh, they fainted from worry? Then we'd better hurry. Fiona glanced at the soundly sleeping Mr. and Mrs. Green and finally got a bit more serious. I pulled a clay doll from a drawer. This was specially made for finding people. It took a lot of effort to create. To make this doll, the clay had to be sourced from the middle of a road. You've all seen people burning spirit money by the roadside. That's because roads can connect the realms of the living and the dead, possessing both yang living and yin spirit energy. With modern progress, most roads are now asphalt. To find a dirt road, I had to visit several villages before I found one that met the criteria. Once I had the mud, it needed to be mixed with water. This wasn't ordinary water, it had to be living water, imbued with human presence. Some villages have rivers nearby where villagers wash clothes, vegetables, and children play. Water from such a river, steeped in the essence of daily life, is the best kind of living water. The clay doll had to be made on a yin year, yin month, yin day, and yin hour. Then, it needed to be sun-dried at noon, when the sun is strongest, for 9 consecutive days to create a spiritually potent soul-tracking doll. I took out an ink stick, cut a corner from Leo's clothes, and along with the few thumb-length hairs Alex handed over, burned them together using a talisman paper. Then, I carefully poured the ashes into an ink stone. Using the ink mixed with hair and cloth ashes, I wrote Leo's birthdate on the soul-tracking doll's body. Then, I placed a small succulent plant on the east side of the table and a handful of copper coins on the west side. Seeing Fiona's confused expression, I patiently explained, east represents wood, and wood symbolizes life force. The green plant enhances this vitality. The west represents metal, a place of starkness and ending where all things wither. Wood meets its end in metal. In a moment, if the soul-tracking doll moves towards the plant, it means Leo is still alive. Fiona watched, fascinated. She stroked her chin, a look of sudden understanding on her face. I get it. If it moves towards the pile of copper coins, it means Leo's kicked the bucket. Alex looked devastated. I quickly shot Fiona a warning glance. She really had no filter. Alex wiped his eyes and forced a bitter smile at me. Psychic, I've been searching with my aunt and uncle for so long. Even though I still don't really believe in this stuff, I can tell you're a good person, not like those scammers we met before. Fiona immediately jumped up, hands on her hips. Who are you calling a scammer? The limits of science are where spirituality begins, you know? Just wait, you'll see how amazing our Stella is. I glared at Fiona, and she instantly quieted down, bowing to me. Psychic, please continue. I took a deep breath, placed the soul-tracking doll in the middle, and my hands began to form rapid seals. As my hands moved, countless tiny white lights, visible to the naked eye, drilled into the soul-tracking doll. The soul-tracking doll slowly began to move, first shaking its head, then waving its arms. Fiona and Alex watched, holding their breath. Spirits awaken, I command you, track the soul, across elements and realms. Rise. With my shout, the soul-tracking doll began to tremble violently. In less than a moment, the entire doll split in half down the middle. One half rolled onto the copper coins, the other onto the pot with the succulent plant before stopping. Holy crap! My soul-tracking doll! I gasped, clutching my chest in pain. Fiona and Alex also stared, dumbfounded, at this turn of events. Ah! I know! Fiona shouted. Does this mean half dead, half alive? I shook my head, my face pale. This means his internal organs might not be in his body anymore. Alex's face turned deathly pale, his eyes bloodshot. He gritted his teeth, his expression somewhat ferocious. You mean, Leo? They harvested his organs? Fiona gasped. Harvested his organs? I picked up the two halves of the soul-tracking doll, heartbroken, and nodded. We need to find Leo's body first before we can find his other organs. Smack! Fiona slammed her hand on the table and jumped up. Are these people even human? This is outrageous. Stella. We have to bring justice and catch the murderers. Her voice was so loud that Mr. and Mrs. Green, who had been sleeping soundly, opened their eyes in a daze. Oh, how did I fall asleep? Mrs. Green rubbed her eyes, stood up, and looked at me nervously. Psychic, is there any news about Leo? I scratched my head awkwardly and shot Fiona a look. Fiona looked at Mrs. Green's haggard face and couldn't bring herself to say it. After hesitating for a long moment, she turned her head to Alex. We've told Alex everything. He can explain the details to you. I need to pee, excuse me. With that, she darted out of the room like a rabbit, leaving only an afterimage. Fiona, you forgot your toilet paper. I called out, then gave Alex a meaningful look and rushed out of the room too. Sigh, I really can't stand seeing such human suffering. Fiona and I hid shamefully outside the door. Soon, heart-wrenching cries erupted from inside the room. Fiona wiped her tears. Oh, Stella, this is so hard to watch. This family is so tragic. I'll pay their fee for them. I wiped the corners of my eyes with my sleeve. Fiona, you're such a good person. My kind of practice doesn't do fees, only karmic connections. This one. Let's call it 10,800 karmic units. Sticking it to the rich always cheered me up a bit. When we returned to the room, Alex had already comforted Mr. and Mrs. Green. Mrs. Green was grief-stricken but her expression was resolute. Psychic, can I see Leo one more time? I nodded sympathetically. Once I've gathered all his soul fragments, I can let you say a proper goodbye. Leo had lost his 7 mortal soul aspects, making the search for his body exceptionally difficult. I took Fiona and followed Mr. and Mrs. Green back to their home. At midnight, I set up a spiritual array in Leo's room and began the serious search. First, I burned Leo's personal clothing to ashes and thickly coated a paper crane, folded from talisman paper, with the ashes. Then, I took a bowl of clear water and dripped blood from both Mr. and Mrs. Green's 10 fingers into it. As I finished the hand seals, the paper crane flapped its wings and flew unsteadily, then nosedived into the bowl. The paper crane was instantly covered in intricate red patterns, looking somewhat beautiful. The Greens watched my actions with bated breath, not daring to even breathe too loudly. Alex was even more shocked, his stunned expression indicating his worldview was clearly taking a massive hit. I pulled Mr. and Mrs. Green over and had them blow hard onto the paper crane. As soon as they blew, the paper crane in the bowl flapped its wings and flew up agilely. "Don't just stand there, follow it." The paper crane led us on a winding path to the riverbank. Looking at the endless expanse of river water, I swallowed hard. No way, Leo's body is at the bottom of the river? Fiona also took a deep breath. This river is deep, at least 30 or 40 feet. If he's at the bottom, he must have been weighted down with rocks or something. I looked around, walked down a small path to the riverbank, and then took a talisman paper from my pocket and threw it onto the water's surface. The talisman paper quickly emitted a faint blue glow in the darkness. Soon, a carp weighing 3 or 4 pounds jumped onto the riverbank. I stuffed the paper crane, still fluttering its wings in mid-air, into the fish's belly. Soon, the black carp began to glow with a faint red light. I turned to look at Alex. "Can you swim?" Alex nodded without hesitation. I casually took off my jacket, tied a flashlight to my arm, and then threw the fish into the river. The carp wagged its tail in the dark river water, signaling us to follow. Alex and I jumped into the water, one after the other. The river water was cold at night, and I shivered as I hit it. The carp joyfully flicked its tail. The deep river water was pitch black, and the flashlight beam only illuminated a small area in front, as if the darkness beyond swallowed all light. Anyone with claustrophobia or thalassophobia would probably die of fright down here. I held my breath and followed the red glowing carp downstream, soon reaching the riverbed. There, lying among dense waterweeds, was a huge burlap sack. I cut it open with my dagger. It was indeed full of stones. Straining to move the stones aside, a swollen, pale corpse came into view. Alex saw it and immediately choked on water, struggling for a while before recovering. Just as I was about to reach for the body, I caught a glimpse of a swift shadow in the distance, speeding towards Alex. I kicked Alex out of the way, and the creature missed. Holy crap! A river goblin! I cursed inwardly. This river had ships passing through daily. How could there be such a thing here? Alex was clearly terrified, and we had been underwater for a long time. He was running out of air. River goblins are formed from energy at the bottom of water bodies. They are incredibly strong in water and extremely difficult to deal with. Having missed its pounce, it turned and lunged at Alex again. Just then, Leo moved. He did a flip and slammed hard into the river goblin, knocking it several meters away. I yelped, letting out a stream of bubbles. Holy crap, Leo's 7 mortal soul aspects were gone, and he could still turn into a water ghost? The river goblin's eyes glowed blue. It squinted at Leo and me, hesitated for a moment, and then actually turned and swam away. I had just breathed a sigh of relief when I saw Alex release a string of bubbles and begin to sink to the river bottom. At that moment, Leo also returned to normal, floating motionlessly. I quickly grabbed a strand of waterweed and tied his hand to my wrist, then swam desperately towards Alex. Splash! I surfaced with Alex, immediately gasping for air. Fiona, seeing this, quickly jumped into the water and took Alex from me. Panting heavily, I also pulled Leo's body out of the water. "Help me lift him." Fiona was currently busy performing chest compressions on Alex. When she saw Leo's body, she jumped in fright. Holy crap! What is that thing? Mr. and Mrs. Green also rushed forward to help. After several of them managed to haul Leo ashore, I collapsed on the ground, unable to move. That trip underwater had nearly killed me. Mrs. Green stared blankly at the blue digital watch on the corpse's wrist. It was the birthday present she had given her son. Leo had been overjoyed when he received the watch, saying it would be much more convenient for keeping time during exams. "Leo, this is Leo." I shivered and exchanged a look with Fiona. Then I rushed forward, pushed Fiona aside, and pretended to perform CPR on Alex. Pushed by me, Fiona stumbled and fell right in front of Mrs. Green. Seeing Mr. and Mrs. Green's devastating grief, looking like they were about to faint, she became so flustered she didn't know where to put her hands. After stammering for a long time, she finally managed to say, well, finding him is a good thing, right? I turned my head away in disgust. I'd never seen anyone so bad at comforting people. Just then, Alex, under my hands, coughed a few times and finally woke up. Watching them clinging to each other and crying their hearts out, Fiona and I didn't know whether to sit or stand. We both shared a common weakness: we couldn't stand seeing people cry in front of us, especially this kind of tragic, heart-wrenching sobbing. It made us feel awful, yet helpless. Just then, Alex took out his phone and made a call. Only then did I realize he had called the police. "What the, you called the cops?" Alex nodded, his eyes red. "My cousin died so horribly. I have to find the murderer and bring them to justice." Fiona and I looked at him like he was an idiot. "What are we going to tell the police when they get here? How did we find the body? And I need to use Leo's body tonight to summon his spirit. The longer we wait, the more trouble it'll be." Alex stunned. Half a moment later, he stammered, then, summon him now?" I checked the time. It was a little past 1 a.m. The midnight hour had passed, but I could still try. I ran to the car, opened the trunk, and pulled out all my things. Fiona and I quickly set up a simple spirit summoning altar by the riverside. Leo's body was placed on a yellow cloth covered with a large diagram. I lit 7 candles and placed them sequentially on Leo's forehead, chest, lower abdomen, hands, and behind his heels. The wind by the river was strong, and the candlelight flickered, threatening to go out, but the faint sparks would flash and reignite. I raised a bell high and instructed them to shout Leo's name desperately once I started ringing it. I cleared my throat, just about to begin, when 2 bright headlights shone from the road in the distance, accompanied by police sirens. The police had arrived. The car doors opened, and 3 men in police uniforms got out. One was slightly older, the other 2 younger. I looked angrily at these cops. With their aggressive auras, how was I supposed to summon a spirit? I shot Alex a glare. He made this mess, he could deal with it. Alex gave a wry smile and walked over to shake hands with one of the younger policemen. "Ryan, you're here." Ryan looked at the body on the ground, his eyes darkening. He gestured to his colleagues, about to approach. I stuck my arm out in front of him, my expression serious. "You can't go over there. You'll startle the deceased spirit." "What?" Ryan rolled his eyes, exasperated, and pushed me aside. "Alex, we've been friends for years. How did I not know you were into this superstitious nonsense?" This was so much trouble. After a great deal of pleading, theatrics, and tearful explanations from Alex and Mr. and Mrs. Green, the officers finally agreed to let me finish summoning the spirit before taking Leo's body away, but on one condition: they had to watch. I shot them a disdainful glance. "Fine. But you'll need to put something on your hats and shoulders to cover up your aggressive auras. Otherwise, with those uniforms, I could be trying to summon a spirit until dawn and get nowhere." Ryan looked at me with a half-smile, as if waiting to see what else I'd come up with. I pulled a plastic water bottle from my pocket, covered in densely drawn talismans. Fiona stared at my bottle, looking like she was about to suffocate. "Holy crap. Stella. You're using a water bottle for this stuff? Where's the class?" "Class? What class? Stop with the superficial stuff." I reluctantly poured a small handful of yellow earth from the bottle and told Ryan to put on his hat and lower his head. No choice, he was too tall, I couldn't reach. Ryan bent down, looking intently at my plastic bottle. "What's this?" "Graveyard dirt. It can mask your yang energy, to avoid disturbing the deceased spirit." Ryan stiffened. He glanced at me coolly, his expression unreadable. I sprinkled a pinch of graveyard dirt on his head and each of his shoulders, then told them to stand on the west side with Fiona. Fiona expressed strong dissatisfaction and protested not getting any graveyard dirt, then snatched my bottle and forcefully sprinkled a large handful on herself. She really wasn't bothered by bad luck, I thought, shaking my head in exasperation. I repositioned myself in front of Leo's body. The spirit summoning officially began. I tossed a large handful of spirit money into the air, shaking the ancient-looking bell in my hand while softly chanting an incantation. With the rapid ringing of the bell, small whirlwinds kicked up from the ground, sweeping up the paper money and forming vortexes around Leo's body. Ryan, who had been standing aside with his arms crossed disdainfully, along with the other two officers, dropped their dismissive looks and watched me with astonishment upon seeing this strange scene. Fiona, seeing this, proudly tilted her chin and tossed her head, as if she were the one performing the ritual. Leo. Soul, return. After chanting the final command, I nodded at Alex. The heartfelt cries soon echoed along the riverbank. Leo, Mommy misses you so much. Son, Leo, please come back. Leo, you promised Dad you'd go to the science exhibit after your exams. Dad already bought the tickets. Leo, come back. Leo, didn't you always want to see my university? Come back, and I'll take you. I raised my sleeve to wipe my eyes. So annoying, making it so emotional, it was affecting my work. The cries grew louder, channeling all their despair, grief, and anger from the past month into those calls. Gradually, a wailing sound rose from the river's surface, mournful and incessant. He's here. As soon as I spoke, a dark shadow drifted over from the river. The shadow was very faint, but Leo's blurry outline was vaguely discernible. They immediately covered their mouths, afraid of startling Leo. Humans have 3 ethereal souls and 7 corporal souls. Leo's shadow carried a hint of dark energy and was so faint it looked like a gust of wind could disperse it. I felt a headache coming on. He only had 1 ethereal soul fragment and 1 corporal soul fragment left. Only by finding the remaining soul fragments could he regain his consciousness and memories, and tell us what had happened. Leo floated in the air, his expression dazed, his eyes empty. I sighed and took out a gourd, drawing Leo's spirit into it. Leo. Leo, where did you go? Mrs. Green collapsed on the ground, wailing. I walked over and patted her shoulder. Ma'am, I've secured Leo's spirit. His soul needs to be nurtured. Once I find his other soul fragments, he'll be able to talk to you. Ryan, his earlier arrogance gone, forced a smile and extended his hand to me. Hello, I'm Ryan. May I ask your name, Master? The older policeman next to him was even more excited, pushing Ryan aside and grabbing my hand, shaking it vigorously. Master, when can you come to our station? There are a few cases I'd like to discuss with you. Ahem, what's the rush? One at a time. Fiona cleared her throat, pulled out a notebook, and started scheduling them. Alright, everyone go home and rest for now. With this soul fragment, finding the others will be easier. Ryan awkwardly grabbed my arm. Psychic, you'll have to come with us to the station to give a statement first. How did you discover the body at the bottom of the river? I did some divination, figured it out, and then I went looking in the river. Ryan awkwardly paused his typing. I also saw a water ghost at the bottom of the river. Do you want to keep recording that? Ryan frowned, thinking hard for a long moment. Sigh. He let out a soft sigh, his fingers flying across the keyboard again. After a while, he handed me a statement to sign. I couldn't sleep, so I went night snorkeling with a friend by the river. Then I saw a burlap sack, and out of curiosity, I cut it open and discovered something was wrong. I looked at the statement in my hand, my mouth twitching. You go night snorkeling. Your whole family goes night snorkeling. After hours of questioning at the police station, it was morning before Ryan finally let us go. Before we left, he repeatedly insisted that if I were to search for Leo's other soul fragments, I had to take him along. Fiona looked smug. Great. Our team is getting bigger and bigger. You think this is a treasure hunt? More people can sometimes just mess things up. Fiona and I rested Promozione at a hotel for a full day. During that time, the medical examiner's findings came back. Based on the body's bone age, height, and other characteristics, it was highly likely Leo. The DNA test results weren't out yet, but according to the report, Leo's body was indeed empty. The police initially suspected Leo had been kidnapped by organ traffickers. After much persuasion, Mr. and Mrs. Green finally agreed to rest at home, entrusting us with the task of finding Leo's other soul fragments. Late at night, in a city hotel, 2 men, 2 women. Fiona giggled. This feels so exciting. I giggled too. There's more excitement to come. In the spacious suite, Fiona, Ryan, Alex, and I sat in a circle on the sofa. I turned off all the lights and lit 4 candles in the 4 corners of the room. On the coffee table in front of the sofa was a cage containing a black cat. In the dim room, the black cat's eyes glowed with an eerie green light, looking quite unsettling. I've never petted a cat in this position before. So thrilling. Fiona reached out to open the cage. Smack. I slapped her mischievous hand away. Pet your head. This is for summoning the spirit. Black cats are Een creatures. Later, Leo's soul will possess the black cat. I took out 4 white paper hats and handed them out. Wear these. They can conceal your yang energy. Fiona looked puzzled. Why not use graveyard dirt? Oh, I don't want to wash my hair. Ryan gave me a long look, took the hat, and handed one to Alex. After they put on the hats, I looked at the 3 of them standing in a row. At first glance, I almost thought they were a line of underworld bailiffs. Move further away, further away. You're creeping me out. After shooing them away disdainfully, I began to concentrate on summoning the spirit. Black cats are naturally psychic, and it was midnight, when Een energy is strongest. I took out a talisman paper and wrote Leo's birthdate on it. After finishing, I took a small pinch of Leo's hair, wrapped it in the talisman paper, and then burned the paper in a bowl. I pulled out a mineral water bottle containing a painstakingly collected Een Yang dew. Een Yang dew is actually a mixture of nighttime dew and rainwater collected under sunlight. Dew is Een, rainwater is Yang mixed together, they become Een Yang dew. Dew is easy to collect, but sun shower rainwater is rare. Rainwater, having been shone upon by the sun, contains natural yang energy. You might not encounter it for years. I carefully poured the Een Yang dew into the bowl. The moment the water touched the talisman ashes, a small mushroom cloud rose from the bowl. I opened the cage, held the cat's head down, and poured the entire bowl of talisman water into it. Once the black cat finished drinking the talisman water, a faint white light began to emanate from its body. My heart leaped with joy. I took out the gourd from my pocket and released Leo's soul. As soon as the soul saw the black cat, it was instantly sucked towards it, as if the cat were a black hole. The moment the soul entered its body, the black cat let out a painful shriek, its voice clear yet tinged with a childlike quality. Alex's eyes lit up. That's Leo. That's Leo's voice. It worked. The black cat staggered a few steps, shook its head, and then stood steady. Once steady, it let out a few low meows, this time back to its normal cat voice. Watching the cat pace anxiously, I narrowed my eyes. Let's go. 2 of Leo's soul fragments are in this city. The group hurriedly got into the car with the black cat and, guided by it, drove for 2 hours to a private hospital in the suburbs. This was the best private hospital in our area. Some of its doctors were supposedly poached from Hong Kong and abroad at high salaries. Fiona stood at the hospital entrance, her face flushed with excitement. Holy crap! Isn't this the hospital my uncle owns? He's selling organs. Well, today I'm cleaning house. TSK, rich people drama. I shook my head. So, TV shows were right after all. Look at Fiona, ready to have her uncle executed on the spot. As expected of the best private hospital in town, even at 2 in the morning, the security guard at the entrance was diligently on duty. Fiona honked the horn twice. The guard scurried over. Open up. Oh, Miss Fiona. I'll open it right away. Fiona tilted her head back and snorted coldly, putting on an insufferably arrogant rich girl face. The car drove unimpeded to the inpatient department. The cat in my arms grew more restless, frantically clawing at my clothes. I put the cat on the ground. It leaped a few times and quickly ran ahead. Quick, follow it. The cat swiftly arrived at a corridor and began scratching at a door. Fiona's expression turned a little unnatural. This is the VIP luxury ward. You can't get in without an appointment. I sighed at Ryan. Just so you know, this is my first time doing this. With that, I took out a talisman paper and stuck it on the door lock. Ancient powers, heed my call, break this barrier. As soon as I finished, the door opened. The black cat darted inside with a swoosh. I followed close behind. Fiona whispered from behind me, "Holy crap. Why didn't you teach me that move? You're holding out on me." Amidst the commotion, the black cat stopped in front of a hospital room. Looking at the room number, Fiona's expression went blank. This is my grandmother's room. She just had a heart transplant last month. I glanced awkwardly at the room. Your grandmother's heart. It's Leo's. After your grandmother's transplant, she must have had severe rejection symptoms, right? Leo was protecting his own heart. Fiona looked at the black cat apologetically, even her speech faltering. Then what do we do? Can Leo get his heart back? I sighed. Are you silly? He's dead. How can he get it back? I stuck a talisman paper on the door and unlocked it. The black cat indeed darted in. Fiona and I entered the room one after the other. Soon, Alex and Ryan followed. Looking at the pale, emaciated old woman on the bed, I couldn't help but sigh. Leo was truly innocent. Those criminals deserved to die. Did the old woman before us know how her heart was obtained? Fiona walked to the bedside and took the old woman's hand, her expression furious. My uncle must be involved in all this. He said the heart was from a young man who died in a car accident and voluntarily donated it. I never thought. The black cat jumped onto the bed, whimpered softly, then walked to the old woman's chest and nuzzled it with its head. In the dim light, we could clearly see a white light flash briefly, moving swiftly from the old woman's chest to the black cat. Subsequently, the old woman's pale face gradually regained a touch of color, and her breathing began to even out. I carried the black cat out of the hospital, my heart heavy. No one spoke on the way back. The atmosphere was exceptionally somber. Even Fiona, usually the liveliest, had a grim face and said nothing, lost in her own thoughts. After returning to the room, I silently pulled out a large map of China from my pocket and placed the black cat on it. The people who received his other organs have probably been transferred to other hospitals. Where are they? The black cat circled the map a few times, then pointed out several locations, cities scattered across the country, from the heartland to the coasts. They were truly all over the place. Everyone packed their bags and, as quickly as possible, we made a whirlwind tour of the country, soon collecting Leo's remaining soul fragments tied to his organs. I placed the black cat on the table and carefully drew out Leo's soul. Seeing the soul, now much more substantial, Alex was moved to tears. Can Leo speak now? I shook my head. His 7 mortal essences are complete, but he's still missing 2 spiritual ones. Fiona came over and rested her chin on my shoulder. After days of non-stop rushing for flights, all 4 of us were exhausted. All 5 major organs are accounted for. The soul fragments from his heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys have all been found. Where could the other 2 spiritual soul parts be? Those 2 are probably close to dissipating. The other soul fragments were attached to Leo's own organs, which is manageable. But the remaining 2 might be attached to other objects, and those objects are likely in daily contact with living people full of yang energy. Prolonged exposure to the living is extremely damaging to a spirit. I know. The murderer. The other 2 soul fragments must be with the murderer. Ryan slammed his fist on the table, his face flushed with excitement, his eyes shining brightly. I nodded in agreement. In that case, we need to hurry. If we don't catch the murderer soon, Leo's remaining 2 soul fragments will likely dissipate. I put the cat back in its cage. To find the soul fragments quickly, using the cat was no longer suitable. Alex, next I'm going to have Leo possess you. You grew up together, and your bloodlines are close. However, spirits are een. After the possession, you'll fall seriously ill and might take a month or so to recover. Alex nodded with a resolute expression. Then what are we waiting for? Let's start. I looked nonchalant. Alright, let's begin. You'll need to take off your jacket. Fiona's eyes immediately lit up at my words, shining even brighter than Ryan's when he'd figured out the murderer. Stella, do you need my help? I'm happy to oblige. I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Alright, this will be a good chance to see how your talisman drawing has progressed. After smearing Alex's entire body with a mixture of corpse oil and the juice of crushed graveyard weeds, I fed him a bowl of talisman water, much like I had fed the cat. After drinking the talisman water, Alex's eyes immediately became vacant. As soon as Leo's soul possessed him, Alex struggled to go outside. Ryan lunged forward and hugged Alex. Alex, at least put on some clothes. However, all resistance was futile. Possessed, Alex was incredibly strong. With a twist of his waist and a flex of his arm, he flung Ryan, who was 6 feet 1 inch, aside. We could only watch helplessly as he, wearing only pants and covered in tattoo-like talismans, charged out the door. Ryan grabbed a jacket and rushed out. Alex, it's only 9 p.m. There are still people on the street. Fiona and I exchanged a look, grinning mischievously, and followed Ryan out the door. Ryan truly was Alex's good brother. After taking 2 punches and 3 slaps from Alex, he finally managed to get the jacket on him. Luckily, Alex, or rather, Leo, chose to walk through deserted back alleys. After countless alleys and dozens of turns, Alex finally stopped. Watching Fiona leaning against a wall, gasping for breath, I gained a new appreciation for her. It went without saying for me my master had been strict with me since childhood. Horse stance, water jumps, pole training, 2 hours of daily practice were ingrained in my bones. As a star of the police force, Ryan's physical training was also essential. But for Fiona, a tycoon's daughter, to keep up with us through dozens of streets was truly impressive. Just then, a noise came from the quiet alley ahead. A boy, about 15 or 16, humming a tune and carrying a bag of snacks, turned the corner. A van was parked at the end of the alley. 2 tall, strong middle-aged men quickly got out, clapped a hand over the boy's mouth, and bundled him into the van. Simultaneously, Ryan and I exchanged a look. Ryan quickly restrained Alex, while I forcefully covered Fiona's mouth. After the van drove away, I sighed in relief and let go of Fiona. She shot up. Holy crap! Kidnapping! Let's go after them. I smacked her on the head. Luring the snake out of its hole, understand? I put a tracking talisman on Alex. If we follow now, we can bust their entire den. Fiona clapped me on the back. Not bad. You and Ryan are on the same wavelength. Ryan glanced at me uncomfortably, feigning composure, but his ears were red. We hailed a cab and soon arrived at an abandoned construction site on the outskirts of the city. This development was once touted to be the city's most luxurious villa complex, but the company went bankrupt, leaving it unfinished. I had to admit, it was indeed a good place to hide people. Those criminals were quite resourceful. I gestured to Ryan and Fiona, signaling them to follow quietly. Just then, Alex darted towards one of the villas. Holy crap! Alex, slow down. Inside the abandoned villa, a few kerosene lamps cast dim light on the concrete floor where 3 teenagers lay scattered, the youngest looking about 13, the oldest perhaps 5 burly young men were sitting around, each holding a takeout container. Well, hello there. Still eating at this hour? My friendly greeting startled them. The scar-faced man leading them brightened up when he saw Fiona and me. Damn! This one's a looker. We could get a lot for her in some shady overseas territory. Alex became extremely agitated upon seeing the scar-faced man. I slapped his back, and 2 faint white lights flew out from the large gold chain around the scar-faced man's neck, zipping straight into Alex's body. As the 2 soul fragments entered him, Alex fainted. I laid him down on the ground and took out the gourd to collect Leo's soul. His soul was too weak, it needed to be properly nurtured before he could appear to anyone. Seeing me take down an adult man so easily, Scarface was taken aback. Colleague? Ryan shot me an inconspicuous look. I nodded calmly. Colleague. I specialize in organ harvesting. Snatch M and sell M to Thailand. Check out this one I picked. Prime specimen, right? With that, I kicked the unconscious Alex, revealing his sturdy physique. The scar-faced leader looked at me suspiciously. You were also sent by Boss Wolf? I continued to nod, glancing at the bound boys. Can't compare to you. I only caught one. Man, it took 3 of us to drag him here. What a hassle. Scarface was clearly very wary, repeatedly trying to get information out of me while revealing nothing about himself. After I spun a bunch of nonsense, more people walked into the villa. Scarface's face lit up. Boss Wolf, you're here. Just then, the piercing sound of police sirens came from outside. I smiled at Scarface. My boss is here too. The subsequent operation went exceptionally smoothly. With Ryan and me as human weapons, dealing with these kidnappers was a piece of cake. Moreover, the police took this arrest operation very seriously, sending a large number of SWAT officers who quickly surrounded the villa, making it impenetrable. The rest was up to the police. Ryan threw himself into the case, working day and night. Meanwhile, I took Alex home. After a week of careful nurturing, Alex's pale face finally regained its color, and it was time for Leo's soul to meet his family. Dad, Mom. Leo, dressed in his school uniform, smiled happily. Mr. and Mrs. Green's tears instantly fell. Fiona squatted nearby, sobbing uncontrollably. Mom, Dad, even though I met bad people, I later went to see. Some of the people who received my organs are innocent. My death had some value. Stella said I'll be able to move on and be reborn soon. Don't be sad. I was very happy to be your child in this life. I gritted my teeth, trying hard to hold back my tears. I couldn't cry. Those damn beasts. Such a good kid. I wiped my tears and turned to leave the room, giving the family their space. Fiona also sat down beside me, sniffling. That Boss Wolf. I saw him in my uncle's office. Damn him. No wonder their hospital was doing transplant surgeries all the time. One surgery costs hundreds of thousands, even millions. How could he be so brazen? Daring to make money like that. His family already has more money than they can spend in several lifetimes. Stella, why can people's hearts be so dark? I stroked Fiona's head. She leaned her head on my shoulder, crying non-stop. Once she'd been in this line of work long enough, she'd understand. What's more terrifying than ghosts is often the human heart. Thanks to ample evidence and Fiona's courageous decision to testify against her own family, the police quickly cracked the case. It turned out that when Fiona's uncle was struggling to build the hospital's reputation, someone had approached him, claiming to be able to provide high-quality organs. Although he knew the source was illicit, after years of being a tycoon, Fiona's uncle had long since stopped seeing ordinary people as individuals. He paid, they provided fresh organs. As long as it made money, Fiona's uncle chose to turn a blind eye to the source. The police quickly apprehended this rampant human trafficking gang, and Fiona's uncle was also convicted and received the punishment he deserved. Stella, just let me stay here. My mom kicked me out. Fiona, who used to just hang around my courtyard every day, was now actually moving her stuff in. I rolled my eyes. For someone who got kicked out, you sure brought a lot of stuff. Fiona, while directing people moving her belongings, complained to me, my mom is a total pushover for her family, she'd empty out our entire family fortune to bail out her relatives. With my uncle going to jail this time, she completely hates me now. Humph. Unless she comes and apologizes to me, I'm not going back home. I sighed. Actually, Fiona had bought this courtyard. If she wanted to live here, so be it. Just then, another familiar figure appeared at the courtyard gate. Ryan stood at the entrance, carrying large and small bags, his handsome face covered in sweat. I looked at him suspiciously. You got kicked out too? Ryan glanced at me coolly and nodded. My lease is up. I see you have a lot of empty rooms here. Could I possibly stay for a bit? I'll pay rent. I sneered. Sorry, I only rent this place to ghosts. I was about to close the gate, but Ryan pressed a hand against it. Beads of sweat glistened on his well-defined features, refracting tiny specks of light. He looked at me steadily and grinned, his teeth startlingly white. I am a ghost. A poor ghost.